everyone. Thanks for having me here. In the spirit of community, as Elsa mentioned, I want to start my time a little differently, and I'm hoping you guys will humor me. So if you're willing to try something new, could you please stand up? As so many of our speakers before said, change starts with us. And to start with change, I really believe we have to believe that we can start that change. So we're going to do a little activity together. Just do as I do and follow me. I'm a star.
I'm a star.
I'm a big star.
I'm a big star.
I'm a little star.
I'm a little star.
I'm a shooting star.
I'm a shooting star.
I'm a rock star.
I'm a rock star.
I am a star.
I am a star.
I'm a big star.
I'm a big star.
I'm a little star.
I'm a little star.
I'm a shooting star.
I'm a shooting star.
I'm a rock star.
I'm a rock star.
I'm a superstar.
I'm a superstar.
Play for Peace is a methodology that looks to build collaborative and cooperative communities through inclusion, play, fun, and laughter. And I think you guys just experienced a little tiny bit of its power today. My journey started 8 years ago in 2012. I was working in Hong Kong, and I recently graduated and had landed a job at a hospitality design firm. It was all going great until a few months in, I fell very, very ill. So ill that I had tumors, and thankfully they weren't cancerous, but it was serious enough for me to wake up and pay attention to what was happening. And I was really shook. I was wondering how in my 20s could I be this sick? And it sort of opened up a Pandora's box. I did the worst thing anyone could do in that situation. I Googled everything that was wrong with me and started to look at the reasons as to why this happened. And I started to understand the impact that the environment and our food has on our well-being and our health. And I was really, really concerned about how that was going to progress in the future as resources become harder to come by. And so I decided at that point to quit my job and volunteer at an organic farm and teach myself how to grow my own food. The farm I volunteered at happened to be a permaculture education site. And this site, and for those of you actually who aren't familiar with the word permaculture, it's a system of sustainable design. It looks at how we can manage our resources effectively. It looks at how we can manage our food, waste, and water, and energy in a way that supports our life and the life of other creatures around us. And over my time in that site, I learned how to become an effective facilitator and run education programs with kids. I moved to India a few years later, and I was able to continue this work, and I've been lucky enough to work with a diverse set of communities. And one such community that we worked with was a speech and hearing impaired school in BKC. And with these kids, we started an urban rooftop farm a few years ago, where they were able to grow their own food. However, the farm grew to be much more than that. It became an opportunity for students to learn about design, strategic planning, maths, biology, teamwork. All of these different things were able to come to the forefront with the simple exercise of building a community garden. It provided other opportunities as well. Students learned about entrepreneurship through their own initiatives, where they took up the stall at the farmers market in Bandra and they sold their own saplings. And again, they were able to turn their so-called disability into their biggest opportunity. They used their ability to teach sign language to connect with other people at the market. And that allowed them to build connections that were beyond maybe those that they would have had in day-to-day lives. They were brave, they were fearless, they were compassionate, and they took that project forward. And it still continues today. Over time, it's beginning to struggle a little bit as the students have grown older and they've started to pay attention to grown-up issues such as exams and so on. And like that, we've worked with several, and and other programs that we do actually, we've taken students out into different ecosystems as well. We've taken them into explorations in the city where they learn about vulnerable communities, and they learn about vulnerable ecosystems, how they support us, and how we can better support them. And when children are in the field, it's very, very inspiring. Their imaginations and their curiosity, it's very easily awakened by the power of nature. They see the flamingos, the leopards, the forests, all of this biodiversity which exists in a crazy city like ours, and they intrinsically somewhere understand that we have to protect it. They are bursting with ideas, and they go back to their schools, they start fundraisers, they start campaigns, they petition for green spaces. Their creativity knows no bounds. But time and time again, I've realized that for some reason, these projects always fall short. And I've begun to ask myself, why are they falling short? Why, after a certain time, do these projects keep on falling, and students are told again and again that their choices that they're making are not as valuable as the ones that they need to make for progress as we've defined it today. I'll give you another example. There was another school that we worked with, a very different community, an international school with ample financial means. And students there had started a juice recycling program after they had gone on an exploration and learned about waste in our community. So they petitioned their school board, they petitioned the company, and they started to segregate their waste. It was going really well, the students were being proactive and felt like they were making a change. However, when they left for summer break and they came back, they realized that their program had been scrapped. Why had it been scrapped? Because the school had switched canteen caterers for cost-saving measures. So the question becomes, what is the message we're sending our kids? That it's only possible for them to take environmental decisions as long as it's within our context of progress, as long as they aren't making too many sacrifices, as long as we as adults are not making sacrifices ourselves. And I think we really have to ask ourselves, how many of us have ever sacrificed for a greater good or for our own personal gain? We've all heard no pain, no gain. So then why is it different when it comes to environmental issues? And do our children really have the luxury to live in the world that we've designed for them? We've talked about progress and material gain, as Tista mentioned. It's a very limiting definition. And we designed our world as it is. Is this the end of how we evolve as a species? What sort of things do we need to imbibe in our children so that they can continue to evolve and survive for the future? And even thrive. And often when I've been asking and exploring this question a little bit, when we talk about survival, people always say, well, hey, there's survival of the fittest. This idea that was coined by Darwin many years ago, that competition is required for the fittest to survive. And our kids, they need to learn to compete, they need to get on top. But what if I told you that a lot of Darwin's work, alongside competition, talked about cooperation? Much more than competition, he talks about how cooperation was the key to our humanity's evolutionary success. And my question is, where have we taught cooperation to our kids as a key to their success? And as we move forward, this idea of cooperation is no longer just limited to the environment. As I was sitting here and I was listening to Harish's talk and Tista's talk, I realized he's talking about the same thing when he's talking about people and gender issues working in silos, when we're talking about standing up for the rights of every Indian. It's the same thing with the environment. We have to learn how to cooperate with each other. And that game that we just played was one small example of different methodologies, different ideas, different answers for all of us to explore and build this world together. Because when push comes to shove and sudden wildfires emerge, like they have been in California and Australia very recently, it's not a job that's going to be able to get our children to safety. It's not a job that's going to help them. I mean, financial privilege and technology will get them somewhere, but will only get them so far. It's going to be cooperation, their ability to work together, and their ability to innovate, and navigate conflict, and have difficult conversations about our privilege, about race, about religion, and somehow find our way through it. We are living in the most polarized times. I don't know if it's the most, actually. I've not been around forever. But we're living in a very, very polarized time. And I think for a lot of these issues that we're facing, one of the most powerful things we can do is find space to hold dialogue, to connect with each other. And as adults, I mean, as adults, we have to sort of step up our game. Kids like Manisha, kids like Greta, kids like Ridhima Pandey, who is an 11-year-old climate activist from India, all of these kids are showing us the way. They have the willingness and the belief in themselves. They believe they are stars. They know intrinsically what is right and wrong. And we keep on getting in their way, and we have to step up our game and find ways to promote cooperativism, to promote collaborative thinking, learning, and doing. Recently, Nikhil and I did a program together where we had two different sets of communities, a BMC school and an international school, one to explore the city in terms of climate change. And we decided to do something slightly different. We spent a lot of time talking and exploring innovations and technologies and solutions for climate problems, but we spent an equal amount of our time playing games and doing collaborative activities to get children to navigate these differences that we have, to acknowledge their privilege, and to have those difficult conversations that us and adults somehow don't seem to have. And they really astounded us. There were many times in that program I was almost moved to tears because the students were brave and kind and were able to connect and figure out how they could best support each other and make sacrifices for each other. They understand that cooperation is the way to go. And as I take my steps into this journey, my invitation is to everyone here is to find ways in your community that you can imbibe the spirit of cooperation in all the types of work that you do. It doesn't only start with the environmental movement, it starts with all of us. And we can start it today, actually. You know, there's a diverse community here. At lunch, when we break, there's a chance for us to talk to each other and have those difficult conversations and take our first steps into building a cooperative world. Thank you so much.